Hi guys, today I wanna show you my new react of. I got the iPhone 8 prototype. Please see it.
The iPhone 8 or edition or the next iPhone. Today we're focusing on this all new model. Now if you've been following the channel for a little while, you probably have seen these things floating around. These are dummy units, mock-ups of what the next phone might look like. I mean, this was one of the first ones that I did on a 3D printer. Pretty crude, not a ton of detail. You can see you just have an earpiece up here where the speakers might be down on the bottom, little bit of detail there, and that's pretty much it. Oh, and then of course, one of the most striking things on the back, this vertical dual camera on a smaller form factor device. This, of course, is not the reason I'm making this video. I got something a lot more spicy over there with a ton more detail, and I think it's probably the best look, the closest look at what will probably be the next generation iPhone, the iPhone 8. So check this guy out. This, yes, is a prototype style unit manufactured for the purposes of mocking up the next generation iPhone in order to build cases and accessories in advance. It's a lot more finished. We have a shiny back. The back camera looks more like an iPhone camera. The buttons work. This is interesting. Here you can see we have a far larger power switch. This has been rumored very comfortable and in a convenient location. But of course, that's not your main focus here. The focus is on this display and this incredible screen to body ratio. So to put it in perspective, I have a 7 Plus right here. Check that out. Okay, that's a big phone. If you've held one of these and you know they're a little bit slippery, a little bit large. Well, the thing about the 7 Plus, it is a 5.5 inch display, right? Let's see here if I can boot this up. Yes, exactly as expected. 5.5 inches, right? So you got a 5.5 inch display. Obviously not a very impressive screen to body ratio. Huge body because of the top and bottom bezel. Of course, on the new unit, this was the striking thing to me about this particular prototype is the fact that this size fits in between the two. It's not a replacement for the regular size iPhone as I originally suspected, because these early 3D prints were very close in size to what was the current phone at the time, not the Plus version. But then you put it next to this and it's like, there's been some modifications, and I'm starting to feel fairly confident that this will be the iPhone everybody wants. And why is that? Okay, so we have a form factor closer to the regular iPhone as opposed to the Plus, and yet when we do our same measurement here, we get 5.8 inches. You see that? 5.8. Now that's a familiar number, right? Because I also happen to have a Galaxy S8 handy over here. So let's slide this guy right in. Now you can see they've done different aspect ratios here. So of course, famously, the S8 is this really tall, strange aspect ratio, but nonetheless, a very nice screen to body ratio will bring the calipers over here, also 5.8 inches. Essentially, the same screen real estate just laid out in a different aspect ratio. So, of course, Apple needs to get into that game, so this right here is making a lot of sense. You have the same display size, but you actually end up with a shorter device in the case of Apple. Look at that right there. Now, you've got a series of other sensors in the top portion here, but beyond that, you have a screen that extends up beyond that section. That's the really interesting part. And I think the reason that that happened here, in order to get that championship crown, you can see it already in the Apple keynote. Incredible, amazing, unbelievable, great, really, really great. And they're gonna have the dimensions on there, and they're gonna be talking about just how efficient they were packing a battery in here, a bunch of RAM, and of course, this wonderful display. Now, the funny thing here is that this display is rumored to be an OLED display, which, I mean, it's hardly even a rumor at this point, and it's Samsung who's gonna manufacture them. For all the fanboys out there that are like screaming right now, it's gotta be a Galaxy S8, just realize even these companies are sharing tech in a big way. The purchase of your iPhone is putting money in Samsung's pocket, and the purchase of your S8 is putting money in Samsung's pocket so that they can get better at manufacturing the displays that they're gonna sell to Apple for people putting iPhones in their pocket. You see how this works? Someone goes here, the other one goes there, and so on and so forth. Push the industry forward. Now, you're not gonna see a headphone jack anywhere on this device right here. And you're probably wondering, you're like, Lou, that screen, that whole situation, it looks a little bit strange, and that's because it is. What you're seeing here is a representation of that screen real estate using a screen protector. Like retail, look at this, retail packaging being sold. You can purchase this right now. Now you have to be pretty confident to put something like that out on the marketplace. This is what the screen protector looks like. I'll pull it out of here. And it's even got the number 8 on it. And it says Apple Decade Edition. Keep in mind, this is a non-functioning unit, right? Yes, it's nice. It's metal. It's a fully metal mock-up. The back is going to be real glass on the official phone, and that's to support wireless charging. Now, the plot actually thickens beyond here because on top of the fact that there's screen protectors for this unit, there's also cases that have come out, so very basic ones, and this happens oftentimes. You get these types of accessories in advance, and then eventually you start to see components themselves leaking out. I personally think we're too close to the actual launch of this device, to the actual announcement, for this to be completely wrong. I think this is 99% there. It's pretty close. And then to point further in the direction of legitimacy, you have 3 separate companies here that have manufactured accessories and a mock-up, and they all match identically. So if I take this screen protector from one company, put it on a mock-up on a prototype unit from another company, oh, what a surprise, it lines up perfectly. If I take the case, it's no different. I slide this guy in here, pop it on, look at that. Cut out for the Apple logo. The dual lens system lines up perfectly over there. Is it a coincidence? Possibly. Is everybody working off the same information? Of course. So it's possible that there's some sort of modification that occurs. I'm just not betting on it. I'm not putting my money there. Possibly the most interesting development in this realm right now is the whole conversation surrounding the fingerprint scanner. So the early rumors were kind of like this, like it was going to be on the back, like certain other devices, you know, the Pixel and various other devices that have it in this location here. Now, the reason it was thought to move over there is because, of course, there's no bezel left here. This is all screen on the front. There's no spot, no obvious spot for a fingerprint reader. Okay, so maybe they'll put it on the back, but then you're Apple. You know, it's all about the aesthetic. You turn this thing over, what are you gonna do? Make the Apple logo the scanner? You're gonna put it below? What happened was the rumors started swirling. They're not gonna put it on the back. Instead, no, it's gonna be on the front. Well, here's the issue with that. Without having any space or any bezel, you're gonna have to put it under the display. The display occupies the entire form factor here. But putting a fingerprint scanner under a display turns out to be a pretty difficult thing to do. So maybe it started out as an original intention or maybe an eventual goal. But it looks like, according to all the experts in the realm, are beginning to speculate that this unit might not actually have a fingerprint sensor at all. Not under the display, not on the back, and instead it'll implement an unlock technology similar to the one on the Galaxy S8. It scans your face, okay? A 3D scan of your face. Apparently it's gonna be a little more sophisticated than this one on the S8. Of course, people right here on YouTube found ways to trick the facial recognition on this device. Who knows if people will be able to do the same on this one, but you know the way Apple's going to tout it, prance around on stage and be like, it's better. They're gonna say it's better than Touch ID. I'm 100% sure, and they're gonna try to convince people on all the different models that this is the way you should be unlocking your device. You just stare at it, it unlocks, it knows your face, it knows your face better than you do, it knows your face better than your mother does. All the creepy things you could possibly imagine, that's what they'll be saying to you in the keynote. And it's probably what you want to hear if you're a potential buyer. Okay, there we go. 5.44, 2.64. Obviously a little bit taller, 5.62, 2.79. So the dimensions a little bit larger in each direction, but certainly not on the scale of the big boy over here. 3.08 wide, and of course a very tall phone. Look, it stretches out the caliper completely here. Probably more like 6.12, but that's a really big phone. So a device that fits in between the two, maybe the perfect phone size. I know a lot of people really enjoy having a big screen and a lot of screen real estate, but didn't want to lug this thing around in the pocket. This could be the sweet spot. Look at that right there. There's your perfect example. such a similar form factor, but so much more screen. You could fit this entire phone can fit in here as if this was all display. And you could kind of speculate at the time you saw the S8 that Apple would probably go in this direction. S8, new iPhone, old iPhone. I think you can tell this one is a lot closer to competing with this than this is. This next to this, it just looks kind of dated. Okay, so the question is now, what do I think? Do I think this is the future here? Do I think Apple is going to sell a boatload of these things opening weekend like a Hollywood box office hit? Yeah, of course they are. I mean, let's be honest, they do that every time anyways. But I think they'll do even a little better than usual. And the reason is because it just seems like a bigger development. It really feels like a new phone. And I've shown a few people this mock-up iPhone users and they're like, yes, I'll take it. I want more screen, but I don't want the big gargantuan. It's gonna have this nice vibrant display, presumably more resolution, so it needs the battery to back it up. So far I've been all right with the S8 battery. Of course I could always have more. If this thing was just a sliver thicker, I wouldn't mind. But I'm glad that Apple didn't try to shrink this thing down any thinner than it already was and focused on the hardware specification. More screen, hopefully more battery, more RAM, definitely more storage. Apparently there's gonna be 2 storage sizes, 64 gigs and 256. This is still speculation. It's just getting closer and closer to fact, the closer we get to the actual launch. So now it's your turn. Let me know in the comments, is this compelling enough for you? I think I've given you probably the closest hands-on look as to what it would be like to handle the next generation iPhone for yourself. Of course, this is not a final version. It's not an operating model. It didn't come out of an Apple retail box. But as it sits right now, are you compelled? Are you gonna pick one of these up when it launches? Will this be your next phone? If you're an Android user, are you compelled to switch now? Is the lack of a fingerprint sensor a big deterrent to you? Do you want to have the 3D OLED on an iPhone and the greatest screen to body ratio of any device that's out there right now? I think most Apple users are going to be pretty impressed. But if you're on the Android side, you're like, hey, I already got all that on my Galaxy S8. And I got a headphone jack to boot, and it doesn't wobble on the table. Look at that, it's flat. I know a lot of people are gonna look at this device here and say that Apple ripped off Samsung with this whole rush to the screen to body ratio scenario. But let me ask you this, is that a bad thing? I mean, let's be honest here, you're the customer. You don't need to get out here and wave the flag around. Waving the flag doesn't do anything for you. Just put your money where your mouth is. Buy what you like. And ultimately, everybody gets something better. I mean, that said, you don't want to like rip people off directly, like not necessarily one-to-one, but I don't, this was inevitable, let's be honest. Screen to body ratio, it had to happen. You know it. And now, both sides of the fence are getting love. All right, let's have a moment and, I don't know, appreciate that.